Hello and welcome to the news at 7, where we get to the heart of the day's stories and communities right across Scotland. Tonight, England looks set to ban energy drinks for under 16s. Should Scotland do the same?
Just having the ban might actually see what's actually going on with it.
You've probably got more variety to that than you do just like normal soft drinks.
Sugary and full of caffeine, we ask one doctor what effect these drinks could have on our health. Also tonight, the scammers targeting pensioners.
It's concerning. I just do not open them. I just delete straight away.
It's terrible that they're taking advantage of people.
We will, of course, have all of the sport with Lewis. Lewis, what's in the cards tonight?
Well, Sarah, we're going to take a look at Scotland's chances of World Cup qualification as they welcome back a key man after 2 years out through injury.
Lovely stuff. And you may take our lives, but you will never take our Braveheart. We look back on the iconic film 30 years on. Hello, I'm Sarah McMillan and welcome to the news at 7. Hello, tonight we're looking at the issue of energy drinks. Bright coloured, big cans we're used to seeing in most of our shops. Most contain caffeine and a lot of sugar. Well, today it was announced they're being banned for all under 16s living in England because of the effects that they're having on young people's health. And Scotland had looked at introducing a ban here too, but scrapped it. But is it time to revisit the policy? Here's what some young people think about it.
Energy drink to me is just like going into a shop and grabbing like a bottle of water. It's like a daily thing.
I don't really have them much, but I've one or two. But Monster seems to be quite popular, at least.
Like if I'm out and about with friends, I'll probably maybe have one or two just to boost myself up. But like any other type of circumstance, probably not.
I can see like a lot of people during like exam time where you're having to study a lot of people take energy drinks to like give them energy to study and stuff.
Oh yeah, like after school when you knew you had to do stuff, then it would be quite good to have like a pickup if you really wanted it, like before you had to go home and start studying.
So what effect could they be having on young people's health? Well, I'm joined now by Professor Stephen Turner, President of the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health and a consultant paediatrician in Aberdeen. Good evening to you, Professor Turner. Tell us, please, just how much caffeine and sugar is typically in one of these drinks?
The short answer is far too much. I think a typical can would contain approximately half the daily recommended amount of sugar for an 11-year-old, just to give you a sense for that, and would contain about 50 milligrams of caffeine, which might not mean an awful lot. In terms of currency, that's probably half a cup of coffee. So just listening to the young lady who was talking there, having a couple of these before she goes out, I'm not sure that'd be making her feeling particularly well. I think if you and I both had a strong coffee with approximately 25 spoonfuls of sugar, which would be 2 cans, I think we'd be feeling anything other than buzzing. I think we might be feeling a bit poorly.
So what kind of effects could this be having on young people's health?
Well, just to start by saying that children don't need energy drinks. If they're feeling tired, there are probably reasons that an energy drink isn't going to help them with. They need to look at, or the parents they jointly need to look at the diet, exercise, sleep routine. But I mean, we have all drunk coffee, and if you get too much coffee, we'll be aware of the side effects of that, which are headache, nervousness, jitters, tummy ache, needing to go for a pee for a lot. And it's the sugar that is probably not quite, the harm of that isn't so immediately obvious. But what is clear to us, we see it every day, people are getting increasingly obese, and having half your daily amount of sugar in a single gulp of a can is going to give that individual far too much sugar on that day. And if it keeps on going, it'll make them obese.
So do you agree then with this ban in England?
Absolutely. How many times do people say unequivocally, I absolutely agree, to reporters? But this is one of those times, without a shadow of a doubt, this is good news. This is the English government saying that it's not good enough. They've drawn the line. They've said that the voluntary ban isn't been effective, and they're acting in the best interests of individuals aged under 16 to stop them from having these drinks that are harmful for them and that they don't need.
But the Scottish Government did a similar consultation to this and decided that there actually wasn't enough evidence to introduce those mandatory restrictions. So why do you disagree with that?
Well, just from the first principles that, you know, a single drink that contains half of an individual's total sugar intake, that is laced with caffeine, a drug they don't need it. The evidence might not be absolutely clear, but from first principles, it's sheer madness to recommend that children should be having such a huge dollop of sugar laced with caffeine. They don't need it, it's not good for them.
OK, Professor Stephen Turner, thank you very much for joining us and giving us your thoughts on that tonight. OK, well, thank you for joining us on tonight's News at 7. We have much more for you coming up in the programme, including...
They may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
Well, 30 years on, we'll look back on Braveheart and what impact it's had on Scotland.
Sunny spells and showers on the way for tomorrow afternoon. 1 or 2 heavy ones with the odd rumble of thunder, but an improving picture for Friday and the start of the weekend. I'll have all the details later.
Now, older people are being warned about a surge in scam messages relating to winter heating payments. Age Scotland issued the warning over scam texts that urged people to apply now for winter heating support from the Department for Work and Pensions. In Scotland, the payment is handled by Social Security Scotland and for the vast majority of people is automatic. Well, our reporter Ian Hamilton visited a centre in Glasgow to ask people there if they'd received any of these messages.
I think it's terrible that they're taking advantage of people, but some of them, it's like well-known organisations they're using as a front.
It's concerning. I just do not open them. I just delete straight away.
I might even have been apt to believe it, only my husband was there.
I've never applied for it. I've always got the money through. And when I showed my son it today, he says that's a scam.
OK, well, let's talk a bit more about these scams now with Adam Stahura from Age Scotland. Evening, Adam. Hello. Just tell me about how much of an impact has this scam had? Why is it working?
Well, I think people have had increasing levels of anxiety as a result of it because it's done a few things. It's quite clever because it's timely and it's really relevant. About 1 million pensioners in Scotland will be expecting to receive a winter fuel payment or the pension age winter heating payment this winter. So there's perfect timing and it's relevant. The urgency that was involved in it, you've got to sign up now because you're missing money, which also then preys on that kind of desperation and need that we know so many older people have faced over the last year and beyond with the rising energy prices, the inability to pay them and turning the heating off to manage to cope. Fuel poverty shot through the roof in Scotland over the last year. And actually the final part of that is just a complete policy guddle between the governments about what's actually happening. Have we got it or have we not? So we're really worried about this. And we had a huge increase in calls to our helpline on the back of this, which gave us real cause for concern and wondering how many people might be snared by this.
And so tell us, what sort of effect can this have in people, especially a bit later in life if you're feeling particularly vulnerable?
Well, look, older people in general aren't vulnerable, but lots of older people might be by definition. Huge numbers of older people live on their own. They aren't particularly technology savvy. They might receive this message, and again, going back to that urgency and the timeliness and the desperation they felt, feeling that this is something they have to do, they'll have missed the news about what's happening. So we're just worried that people have been preyed on, and those who are more likely to need it are those the least to give away if they're caught out and scammed.
And this is just one example, though, isn't it? Is this something we're seeing increasingly become more common?
Well, I think obviously we're all being scammed all the time. If you look at your phone, there'll be WhatsApp messages and hidden away in different groups you're set up with. But we saw much more of this through the COVID pandemic, when big news about whether it was PPE or vaccines or other things. So scammers will prey on that desperation, on that need and that timeliness. We've seen much more of this. And as more older people are grasping with technology, getting smartphones for the first time or iPads and email addresses, it's quite easy to see how you can be sucked in by this.
So if you're watching this tonight and you're a bit unsure, you think you might have received a scam text or you have an elderly relative and you're concerned for them, what would the advice be?
I think number one is don't be clicking on the links. Don't be doing this. It's absolutely pointless. Wait, take your time. There is no urgency if it's an official means from the government or otherwise. they'll come back to you if they need to. But these types of payments are going to be automated. And for older people, with regard to the winter fuel payment or the pension age disability winter heating payment, Social Security Scotland will be the ones dealing with this mostly automatically. So don't press on links. And you can call helplines like Age Scotland for a bit of advice to make sure you're doing the right thing.
Okay, great advice, Adam. Thank you very much for joining us and talking us through all of that. We appreciate it. Now, elsewhere tonight, summer might have come to an end and a holiday might feel like a distant memory, but hotels in the Highlands say they're struggling to staff their facilities. The head of a Highland hotel group says they've been forced to buy another property to house their staff because attracting hotel workers to the region has become increasingly difficult. Andrew Thompson has this story.
The Federation of Small Businesses has released the results of a survey of 478 Scottish businesses. Now, the findings suggest that across Scotland as a whole, recruitment difficulties have eased somewhat over the last couple of years. However, here in the Highlands, staff shortages remain a major problem. 44% of businesses here complain that there's a lack of local workers. That's led to decisions like cutting opening hours and reducing other services. Now, the Glenmore Hotel here in Inverness is owned by the Tourist Group, who also have hotels in Ullapool, Pitlochry, Aviemore and Boat of Garton. With housing also in short supply for incoming workers, they've taken unusual action.
We provide staff accommodation. Trying to get housing, in certain areas is very, very difficult. In Ullapool, for instance, we actually bought a small hotel to convert into staff accommodation because the challenges of finding and recruiting staff is very, very difficult.
Richard also says that staff shortages have meant that he's had to step in to serve lunches and do other odd jobs around the hotels. Now, the Federation of Small Businesses says that its report spells out the cost of the failure to tackle this long-standing issue. In a statement, the Deputy First Minister, Kate Forbes, said that they were continuing to call on the UK government to develop tailored migration routes, including a rural visa pilot, to help Scotland's rural businesses to thrive. Andrew Thompson, reporting Scotland, Inverness.
Now it's time to get a roundup of the stories which are making the BBC News app here in Scotland today. A 16-year-old boy has been arrested over the death of a 22-year-old man on a street in Edinburgh. Emergency services attended Great Junction Street in the early hours of Tuesday. Nursing staff at Borders General Hospital have been criticised for leaving a dying man in unnecessary pain. Roy Owen was receiving palliative care but was regularly denied pain relief. Elsewhere, 3 men have been jailed for running a cannabis factory at a derelict shopping centre in Irvine. Officers were tipped off by Scottish Power, who had concerns about energy use at the site. A new cycle hire scheme has launched in Edinburgh. Swedish firm Voix has 50 electric bikes across an 8-kilometre area. And the scenic West Highland Railway is to get a £15 million upgrade. The line features the famous Glenfinnan Viaduct, which you've seen in the Harry Potter films. Well, for much more on all of these stories, you can scan the QR code, which you can see there on the screen for you now. That takes you to the BBC Scotland News app. There's much more there for you, including this story, how one farmer believes 5 of his Shetland pony foals were taken by sea eagles. Now, are you battle cry ready? Well, it's been 30 years since the Hollywood blockbuster Braveheart came out. The movie, starring, directed and produced by the actor Mel Gibson, won 5 Oscars for its depiction of William Wallace and the First War of Scottish independence against King Edward I of England. Here's a bit of a refresher for you.
Didn't get dressed up for nothing. Go back to England and tell them Scotland is free.
This one will fight forever.
They may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
Well, it's a classic, but 30 years on, what do some people think of the film now?
We came to see this country because of the movie, and it's a good story.
Underdogs are fighting, and this guy comes out of nowhere and decides to take on the British. Yeah, it was amazing.
I don't actually remember most of it, so I just said I wanted to see it again. But what I'm learning is how important William Wallace was.
We really watched it a couple of months before we came, and then it kind of refreshed you and coming to the region.
Well, at the time, the world premiere was held in Stirling, and it's home to the Wallace Monument. So what's its legacy been? Suzanne Allen spoke to Jenny Steele from Visit Scotland, and a warning for you now that this report does contain some flashing images.
It was one of those sort of classic Scottish movies that came out, around those filming of Braveheart, Local Hero, Highlander, Wicker Man, all these real Scottish classics. So they have really lasted the test of time. The premiere being here, that was something that I don't think premieres of that sort of nature hadn't really been in Scotland. So it was a huge event. It got a great media attention. It captured the imagination of people around the world, as well as the sort of pride of people in Stirling and Scotland. And it brought to life one of the most sort of iconic Scottish historical figures. So for us, that's a really important asset of people finding out about Scotland's history, its culture, its heritage, which inspires people to come here, and they're still doing that, decades on.
Controversially, at the time, the film was made mostly in Ireland and a little bit in Scotland. Has that affected it at all?
I don't think it has affected it. I mean, yes, there was filming in Ireland, there was also filming in Scotland, but the beauty of it is that we actually have that real historical connection and the real places that he lived, he went, the battle sites, also the monuments, the Wallace Monument in Stirling, places like that people can go and explore and go and find out about that real person. So I think the fact of where the filming took place, I don't think that has had an impact, because we're still seeing that years on, that people are still inspired.
It feels like for the past 6 months, certainly over the summer, you can't move for film productions in Scotland. Did it have an effect that way, or is there something else into the mix?
Scotland can either be its own destination, or it's very good at doubling as other places. So it's very versatile in terms of a location. So when you've got those productions coming here, I think that then is a sort of knock-on effect that then those people will then go on to work on other films, and it's really just that word of mouth and that popularity. We know that 1 in 5 people come to Scotland because they've seen the destination on film or TV. So that gives us a great chance to tap into those film fans and hopefully turn them into visitors.
Well, still to come, we have a full weather forecast for you with Christopher, and we'll take a look at one of the finalists for this year's Make a Difference Awards. But first is the sport with Lewis, and you'll be disappointed because I'm afraid there's no face paint.
Yeah, but we're all channeling our inner William Wallace as we get ready for another Scotland World Cup qualifying campaign. Yes, hello there. We're kicking off tonight with one man who's delighted to be back in the Scotland camp, and it is Aaron Hickey here, and he is back after an injury nightmare that lasted almost 2 years. He suffered a hamstring injury in October 2023 while playing for Brentford, and it's taken 2 surgeries to get the defender back to fitness. He's hoping he can play a big part in Scotland's first World Cup qualifier against Denmark on Friday night.
I think you've got to believe in yourself as a player, and then I'm pretty sure all the other players know that we can do that. So it's just about believing in the team, and it comes along with the fans getting behind us. Every game they help us massively. To play in a World Cup is my dream. As a young boy, I'm pretty sure it's everyone's dream to play in a World Cup for their country. So yeah, it would be the proudest moment of my career.
Well, it is 27 long years since Scotland qualified for a World Cup. Remember that opening game against Brazil in 1998, but they then missed out ever since. In 2002, finishing 3rd in that qualifying campaign. That was Craig Brown's last, and it was the same story in 2006 and 2010, coming 3rd again. Gordon Strachan was in charge for the next 2 campaigns. They could only manage 4th in 2014 and then 3rd in 2018. Steve Clarke came closest to guiding Scotland to a World Cup, finishing 2nd in 2022, only to lose a playoff semi-final against Ukraine. So, getting closer. And earlier, I spoke to former Scotland international Pat Nevin to see if he felt confident that this could be Scotland's time.
Concerned but excited at the same time. It's not an easy group. Certainly not an easy group to win, but it's one of those ones where teams can definitely take points off each other. But we're in a pretty good place just now. I know there have been some difficult times of late, but remember we've We've got through to a couple of Euros. Stevie Clark's done a good job there, but the one that is left, the one we've all been waiting for a long, long time, all this century, indeed, is to get to this World Cup. And yeah, now's the start. And, we're capable of it, but it's not going to be easy. Right now, may not say it out loud, but Stevie Clark and most of the lads they'd snap your hand off for a point. And although they're a very, very good side and they've got a number of very good players, hey, but we've got good players too.
Yeah, we've got a Ballon d'Or nominee, so that's not bad, is it? I guess the confidence must be sky high among the group, given what you touched on, Pat. They've qualified for the Euros back-to-back. However, it's a different kettle of fish trying to get to a World Cup. It's so difficult to get to a World Cup, isn't it?
It is, but it shouldn't be that difficult. There's a lot more teams getting there this time. So that's something that we need to keep in mind, that, there's 3 teams ahead of us. Don't think any further than that. The Greeks, big concern for us, because although we managed to win once against them, we were absolutely hammered against them at Hampden Park. So we know they're a very good side. But like the Danes, they're capable of all taking points off each other, and it's been about being professional, picking the right team, as many of the top players being available as possible, and also picking the right systems. And that's going to be a big one for Stevie Clark. I suspect it might be a 4-2-3-1. And I think that actually suits our game and our group of players.
Certainly. Do you think it suits Steve Clark as a manager, Pat, that this is very much short and sharp, isn't it? It's over a few months, 6 games, and we'll know if we're going to be at a World Cup. Does that change anything from a management or a player perspective going into this?
I think it does, actually. If you have one of those very, very long campaigns, you could start off, a number of players have talked about it already, with one group of players, and by the end of it, you've got a whole different group of players, 4 or 5 different positions there and players there. But if we keep this group together, and the likes of Hickey coming back in, it is massive for us, an absolutely massive thing for us if he's back to his very, very best. That gives us a real balance on the right-hand side. Like Doak coming down as well. I better remember to call him Gannon Doak, his new name. If he's back fit, flying again, that makes a huge difference as well. So get them all together as a group and get the team spirit working together. That's the really important thing, because when that spirit isn't right and we're not giving it 100%, and when the Tartan Army isn't making that noise behind us, we're a far lesser group. However, you tend to find most of the times when that doesn't happen, it's friendlies. These ain't friendlies. These are games that we want to go and win, that we need to go and win. And I absolutely believe that the big names, the McTominays, certainly you're looking at wee Billy Gilmore, I think he's going to be very, very important for us as well, McGinns, etc. They know when the big ones come, and they tend to turn up for them.
Pat and Evan talking to me there. Now, Ross County have appointed this man, Tony Docherty, as their new manager. The 54-year-old was sacked by Dundee at the end of last season after finishing 10th in the Premiership. County were relegated after a playoff defeat by Livingston and are winless after 4 games in the Championship. A world-class coach. That's how Scottish Rugby see Gregor Townsend. They've extended his contract by 2 years, taking him up to the World Cup in 2027. The decision might not be popular with everyone. Some fans and pundits were hoping for a change after 2 disappointing World Cup exits at the pool stage. But Chief Executive Alex Williamson says it was clear Townsend was the best man to take the team forward.
Gregor is a world-class coach and is running a world-class environment. I would say that Gregor has been hamstrung slightly by the way that our structure has been set up, and we're changing that now. So going forward, he'll have a full-time high-performance environment that's dedicated to him. Having then spent nearly a month with him and his squad over in New Zealand and Fiji in the summer, my own assessment of the environment and the areas that I would recognise as a business manager, I thought they were outstanding. And so a combination of those things and the fact he's got a massive desire to continue were the clinchers.
And you can keep up to date with all of the sports stories over on the BBC Sports Scotland website, including all of the build-up to Scotland's match against Denmark on Friday. And Sarah, I'll bring tomorrow's sport from Copenhagen. Lucky me, I'm getting to go over there.
Lucky you indeed. Took the words right out my mouth. Thank you very much, Lewis. Thank you. Now, in just a few weeks' time, we'll find out the winners of the Make a Difference Awards. Before the awards, though, we're showing you some of the finalists and their stories. This evening, we bring you Colin Morrison.
Hi, I'm Colin and I drive the bin lorry for Highland Butte Council. I would just throw up photos on my Facebook and there was a few people we were on that, we're saying, like, you need to do a calendar, and people can buy it, you can do it to charity or whatever. Since starting in about the last 6 years, I would say I've raised £50,000 through the calendars itself. The old folks home just across the road there. During COVID lockdown, I donated money to them and they used it to build an outside area.
I'm Linda and I work for Trust Housing Association. I first came across Colin's work through my work at Gleneagles. You know, they couldn't go out, everybody was kept in their home, and he came forward and helped us to provide a sitting area so that the tenants could socialise, which helped them a lot, and it also helped their well-being in that.
I like my music, I like traditional music, so I like to help out like the Gaelic choirs, the Tobermory School bagpipes and the Mull and Iona pipe band. They used the money raised to buy a new set of bagpipes, a wee plaque on it with a Binman's view of Mull and Iona, so I thought that was quite nice. To me, it's more about delivering the money to the charities and to help the islands. As I say, I'm proud of where I come from.
I think he's a legend and a hero in Mull, yeah.
That was Colin Morrison speaking there. And the winners of the awards will be announced at a ceremony at the end of September. And we will, of course, be there to tell you who's won. Good luck to all the finalists. OK, now it's time for a look at our weather forecast. And of course, Christopher Blanchett is here. What's on offer today?
Well, there was a lot of rain around for some of us today, but actually something drier coming up in the forecast. Let me explain all.
Please
but
do.
First, some Weather Watcher photos. Well, a bit murky there on the east coast. The best of the sunshine was across the northwest Highlands. For many, it was cloudy. A bit more sunshine around tomorrow and some showers. Let me show you what's happening, because we've had low pressure with us and it is staying with us really, but just notice this high pressure trying to move in through Friday and Saturday before low pressure, you can just see behind me there, returns for Sunday. So here's what's happening over the next few days. First thing tomorrow, we've got some cloud and showers through South Lanarkshire, the borders, maybe in towards the Lothians for a time. That should clear. Elsewhere, a few brighter moments to start the day. A rash of showers towards the west coast and through the Hebrides there, and 1 or 2 showers to start the day in Orkney. Now, as we go through the course of the morning, that cloud and those showers in the southeast clears. Elsewhere, we start to see the showers become more widespread. So it's an afternoon then of sunshine and showers. 1 or 2 heavy ones, the odd rumble of thunder, temperatures mid to high teens. There's the high pressure I mentioned, just beginning to work its way in from the near continent, pushing that weather front away and affording us a reasonably dry day, actually. Some sunshine, 1 or 2 showers around. You can see over my shoulder, though, that weather front just trying to push in, bringing thickening cloud and some patchy rain to the Western Isles. In the east and the northeast, temperatures high teens, maybe 20 Celsius, but the wind's picking up around the west coast. And then on Saturday, another reasonably dry day, but it will be fairly cloudy at times with a few showers here and there. But with the winds coming in from the south, reasonably warm, actually. And then the low pressure returns. And actually, take a look at it. It is quite a deep area of low pressure swirling around there. It could be our first named storm of the season. It'll be Storm Amy if that happens, but it's not been named yet. So this is Sunday, a very different day compared with Friday and Saturday. Windy from the southeast now, still warm but cloudy and wet. And then on Monday, there's that storm system. It could well bring some very heavy rain and some strong winds. At the moment, the weather model's keeping it to the south of us, but we'll keep a close eye on that. So you can see on the outlook, the dry slot, if you like, is likely to come our way Friday and Saturday, caveated with 1 or 2 showers. That's the forecast.
Caveated indeed, Christopher. We'll need to keep our eyes peeled, like you say, for that potential named storm, first of the season. Thank you very much. And that is all from us here tonight. I'll be back at the same time tomorrow, and Lewis will be in Copenhagen ahead of that big build-up for the Scotland v Denmark game. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.